Okay, we're all here. Roll call, please.
Director Brett Eccles,
Here.
Dr. Arthur Perry,
Here.
Secretary Arlene Schaefer,
Here.
Vice President Michael Schaefer,
Here.
President Robert Uten.
Here.
Thank you.
Madam Clerk, do we have any public comments
No, Mr. President.
or no raised hands? So we'll go on to study items. The first one is consider approving a 5% cost of living adjustment for the Costa Mesa Sanitary District employees. Scott, are you going to?
Yes, thank you, Mr. President. So historically, the board of directors have approved a cost of living adjustment for employees to as a way to help offset inflations. And as you see in your staff report, I give you the past 10 years of the cost of living adjustments that the board has approved for employees. And you can see it, the rates fluctuate from as low as 0.1% to as high as 3.6%. This next fiscal year in 22-23, we did not budget a COLA adjustment. We didn't anticipate inflation to be very high as the average last 10 years have been about 2%. But as you can see in the attachment, the inflation from, the CPI from February to February is 7.4%. And then from March to March is 8.5%. So it went up again. As you can see in the staff report as well, the expenditures that are going up, such as groceries are going up nearly 12%, electricity up nearly 18%, natural gas nearly 23%, and then the big one is gasoline. I think everyone's feeling the pinch on gasoline, which is up almost 50% from just a few months. So staff is not recommending the full 7.5%. Instead, staff is recommending a 5% COLA, which is still would be the highest COLA that the board has approved for the board of directors. It would definitely help staff offset some inflation costs. It would also help comply with the strategic goals of valuing and appreciate employees and maintaining a high level of employee satisfaction. If the board approves the 5% COLA, the total cost is $130,000. Also in your staff report are other options. You can also approve a lower amount, which in your staff report put 3%, or if you feel generous, you can approve the full 7.4%, which is also the total cost in your staff report. But staff is recommending a 5% COLA adjustment. So happy to answer any questions you may have.
Do the directors have questions?
Oh, when I talked to Scott at our meeting with one-on-ones, I suggested the 3% because I think 5% is pretty extreme. And what did you budget for this year?
We didn't budget anything this year.
Nothing.
No.
And where would you get that money from?
Well, with the rate adjustments going into effect in July, there'll be enough revenue for that money for the adjustment.
So I just suggested 3, thinking 5 was too much, but I haven't talked to any other board members about it. So let's do this.
Yeah, I've got a couple questions. With regards to merit-based raises, where does that trend right now? With regards, I see the chart on the CPI, but where is the merit-based raises stack up over the past several years?
Well, it varies. I mean, staff can, depending on their evaluation, it can receive a 2% to a 5%. So it varies from employees to employees. I don't know the overall average, but I would say it's close to 5%. Most of the employees are performing very well, and so I would assume it's close to 5%.
So you're saying each year 5% merit-based?
If they're within the range, they're within their salary range, and they receive an excellent performance evaluation and they complete their goals, right? There's performance goals they have to complete as well. Yes, they'd get a 5%. Now, if they're close to their range, as I indicated in the staff report, there are a few employees that are close to the top of the range. So even if they received an excellent evaluation, they'll receive whatever the difference is. It could be a 3%, could be a 1%, could be a 4%. It just varies how close they are to the top of the range.
So let's just take the 5% and then, as a Director Perry, just throw a 3% in there. There's 8% above the CPI.
Sorry, how's that go again?
If they get a 5% merit-based raise, plus, as Director Perry, I'm just using a 3% suggestion, 5 plus 3, yeah, 8.
Well, those are the ones that are within that range. Again, as I mentioned, there's at least 5 employees there's 3 employees that are at the top of the range. So
Right.
3% would still be far below the inflation. And then we have a couple employees that are close, so they still would not be close to 8%. So I wouldn't say all of them be 8%. That's not a fair assessment.
Yeah, so then that leads me to my next question, which you can't give one CPI and others a different one, correct? It all has to be 0 or
One fairly the same way.
gotcha. And you obviously employee morale and all that, as mentioned, is very important. Where does our salary range stack up with neighboring communities, districts, things like that?
The last one, we did a salary survey with other agencies, was a few years ago. We do one every 5 years. And we don't try to be the highest, but we try to be the competitive,
Mhm.
right? And so as far as where we are, I don't know on top of my head, but we are competitive. Our salary ranges are competitive. But there are agencies in Orange County that pay significantly higher than our employees. So it just varies from district to district.
This morning is a study session, and then we could vote to bring this back to the board, the next board meeting, correct? Can we get that information before the next, if we approve to proceed?
So you want to know where our salaries stack up with other agencies? Or-
Yeah, and then, because then we could look at this and say, okay, if we do nothing, we're here. If we do 3, we're here. If we do 5, just give me an idea of where we stack up. Yeah, something like that, a little bit more information on that.
And also, I think Brett is asking for how many employees are at the top of the range. And
Exactly.
It's in the staff report. You have 3 that they're already at top of the range, and you have, I think, 2 more that are close to the top of the range.
So, okay, and then everyone else, the full CPI increase
So
would,
within their salary range, if they get a performance an excellent performance evaluation, they are eligible to get 5%.
okay. Gotcha. And then the CPI of 7.4, can you just describe that, where that's coming from? Because you'd mentioned LA, Anaheim, Long Beach.
It's coming from the United States Labor Statistics.
And so they just take it from those 3 mentioned areas, correct?
Yes, correct.
So it's not like there's not one for Orange County specifically.
Well, it's that benchmark is for Orange County. It's for Los Angeles, Anaheim, Long Beach area. So it is Orange County.
So it encompasses the whole area. Perfect. Okay, I think that's what I had for right now.
Arlene?
Yeah, I just had a question to Director Perry. 3% would be for how long? Is it an interval and then we look at it again, or
You look at it every year.
Yeah, it's annual. So it'll be
The annual.
It's annual.
it's the annual? Okay, I just wanted to be
I mean,
sure.
annual for this year.
As it's going right now, next year it could be 10% with
Okay.
inflation, but
Okay, so
one of my concerns is our ratepayers, because they're going to be hit. I don't know how they're struggling right now with the
Mhm.
increases. And now this is going to increase our budget. That's what I was concerned about,
yeah,
And I didn't, so we just have 3 people at the top of the merit level right now.
agreeable. Well, potentially at the end of this fiscal year, next year it'll be 5.
Are they all, are any of them in the field?
Excuse me?
Are any of those people in the field that you know of? Are they all in?
I think one of them is in the field. One.
I've got one, sorry, you go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I just, one follow-up on the COLA increase previously approved from, say, 2012 to 2021. I mean, even at 3, that would be the second highest. Do you have the information going back before then? Because there's been inflation and recessions back before 2012. Do you have that information available?
Yeah, we go back.
Again, I would like to see a little bit further trend, because even at 3, that's still would be our second biggest bump since 2012. And I agree with Director Paris, like, we got to have all the information so I could look a ratepayer in the face and
Exactly.
explain this. So, all right, sorry, go ahead.
Mike?
CPI and COLA is always the biggest slippery slope when you're an employer. I don't care what line of business you're in. I don't think any of us up here can dispute the fact that 7.4 is close to what we're paying more inflationary wise now. I sat and wrote bills out yesterday, and just paying my auto gas, 7.4 is not even close. I think we need to be careful, and this is my opinion as an employer and having worked for a corporate structure. I really think we need to be careful about tying COLA to performance. COLA is not in my way of thinking, COLA has nothing to do with performance. So if we try to tie this to performance, I think we can get ourselves into a little bit of trouble. The one thing I would recommend, that if we're bringing this back to the board meeting to make a decision, and I don't have a problem with that, is there's a press conference on the national level being held right now about some inflationary changes or some things in the Fed that the Fed is looking at in order to reduce this inflationary trend. Based on what's going on the federal level, I don't know if it'll do us any good or not, but I'd ask you, Scott, to take a look at whatever comes out today. I mean, whatever the federal government says today. Now, the impact of that isn't going to be felt tomorrow, obviously, but in terms of our ratepayers, let's be realistic. I mean, our ratepayers know that it costs more for everything. I mean, they're not in a bubble. They're paying the same inflationary trends that all of us are. So I don't know. Again, this is such a slippery one to look at. Our employees deserve 7.4. I'm just going to say that right up front. I don't think we can afford 7.4 as a district, and I don't want to go that high as much as I'd love to be able to. But again, it's such a double-edged sword. I mean, we have to pay more because everybody's paying, and I don't know, maybe I'm rambling here a little bit, but I'd really like us to take a look at what's coming out from the feds today, and if we have to wait until the end of the month to make that decision, so be it.
Yeah. And also I'd like to see some local comparable agencies, you know, the city, Mesa, and a few other agencies.
You know what those other agencies have done for COLA? Has that have been announced by anybody that you know?
I could do some research to see if they've done anything, but I haven't heard anything.
I know at SDRMA, we just approved a COLA. Now, bear in mind, this is Sacramento area. It's not Orange County.
But you may correct myself. What they might have happened, they may have already negotiated a CPA in their union contracts in negotiations. So it might be already been approved.
And I guarantee that union contract isn't 2.8 or 3%.
We're usually around 3 or 4%.
Yeah, but the trend this year has been higher. So anyway, that's it. Yeah, sorry.
Any more questions by the board members?
Everything I want. We'll just-
So I think what we've asked is that they come back with more information.
I got direction from the board what to bring back.
Okay. We'll go on to the next item, which is
If bring that back, are we going to make a decision at the next meeting, or look at it and make a decision at that time or later?
I would like, if it's okay with the board, I'll bring back the information and the board can make a decision at the board meeting on May 23rd.
Can we get that information, earlier than we do for our board docs?
Sure.
You know what I mean? So we can look at it,
and one last question is the COLA at the end of our fiscal year, or is it immediate?
It's implemented July 1st.
Okay, so it's at the end, it'll be implemented for the fiscal year. If approved.
Welcome to California.
Okay, go on to the next item. Consider approving new job classifications, which would hire 2 new employees in the waste. Okay, go on to the next item. Consider
That's magic.
So,
Yeah.
What, is that me repeating myself?
Yes.
Oh,
Full of a joke.
well. Yeah, I should have started off with a different opener. Yeah, okay. Let's go on to the next item. I think we've all read what this item concerns, so. Scott, are you going to lead
Thank you, Mr.
discussion?
President. So you might recall that we met 2 times to discuss staffing levels in the wastewater collection department that could enhance our maintenance and operations to preventing sanitary sewer overflows. This morning, staff is seeking direction from the board to bring back for approval consideration 3 things. One, a job description and salary range for an electrical instrumentation technician position, hiring 2 new employees that include 1 electrical instrumentation technician and 1 wastewater maintenance worker 2 positions, and then direct staff to place the order for 1 new combination sewer cleaning unit and 1 pickup truck. Now, currently, the district has on staff 1 SCADA technician / industrial electrician that is responsible for the electrical systems at our lift stations, but we believe another electrical technician is important for safety because staff is dealing with high voltages at lift stations. And also this new position will provide coverage when our SCADA technician is out on leave. So we always have an expert on electrical systems on staff to handle those issues. A copy, I'm sorry, in addition to providing those electrical systems skills and services to the district, the electrical instrumentation technician will also provide backup services for standby services and also will provide assistance for responding to emergencies such as sewer sanitary overflows. A copy of the job descriptions, the proposed salary range is attached to your staff report. And if you approve this job description, then the district will have 1 crew consisting of 2 electrical technicians assigned to maintaining lift stations. Now, the wastewater maintenance worker 2 position is an approved position by the board. We currently have 3 employees that are titled wastewater maintenance worker 2 positions. And so what I'm recommending is hiring a 4th wastewater maintenance worker 2 to be part of a proposed 3rd cleaning crew. Staff believes having a 3rd cleaning crew will allow the district to clean the entire system within 12 months, thus reducing the likelihood of SSOs. In addition, a 3rd crew will give the department enough staff to work 410 schedules, which is a schedule that staff out in the field is requesting. And it will also allow us to increase our cleaning hours as demonstrated in the attachment. Now, the 3rd cleaning crew means the district will have to acquire an additional equipment, and the most expensive equipment is the new combination sewer cleaning unit, which is nearly $600,000. And unfortunately, it would also take us nearly a year for that equipment to be delivered because just like the solid waste trucks, they're having issues with part deliveries. So it could take anywhere between 11 to 15 months to delivery. We're also recommending the purchasing of a pickup truck. We use a pickup truck in our cleaning to provide additional visibility for motorists, additional flashing lights, also protective barriers for oncoming traffic, but also could provide supplies and tools and maybe additional resources for deploying generators, emergency equipment during emergencies. We just, as you know, we just acquired a pickup truck for the engineering department. It's a hybrid truck. We got a great deal on that for $27,000. But we are budgeting, we're recommending $50,000 for a pickup truck that will include all the outfitting that needs to be done for those trucks. Now, even though it will take a year or more for a combination unit to be delivered to the district, that does mean we could still proceed. I believe we could still proceed if the board approves hiring the 2 new positions because there is plenty of work for staff to do there without having a cleaning unit. And I list some of those duties on a staff report, and some of those duties include, using our CCTV camera and inspecting more pipeline. Also, I believe this is something new. I think more sanitary districts or more wastewater districts are going to be doing now that we learn from that 8 million gallon spill in Carson. It was caused by a collapsed sewer manhole that was caused by corrosion. It's starting to wake up the wastewater industry, saying, well, you know what, we need to do a better job and start inspecting our manholes. And so and we have over 5,000 manholes. And so this is definitely an area our staff can do while we're waiting for the delivery of the combination unit. Other areas, plug and sealing manholes, to prevent inflows, training, and then cleaning the lift station wet wells. Again, some of the duties that staff can perform while we're waiting for delivery of the combination unit. Now, another benefit for hiring 2 additional employees is that it can provide additional coverage for after-hour call-out assignments or standby duties. For the past 10 years, we've had a private contractor, CNR Drains, provide that services. They would have an after-hour call center where they'll field calls and they'll respond to private SSOs. They'll also respond to public SSOs if we need assistance. They gave us a letter of notice saying that they, effective July 1st, they're no longer going to provide that service to us. Basically, they're saying they're going to terminate their contract with us. So it's really going to be up to staff to do that kind of work now. And so what I was concerned about when I heard about it, well, okay, so we have our staff, so what kind of activity it's going to occur on the after-hour standby. And so I did some research on CNR Drains invoices for the past 3 years, and you can see in your staff report the kind of activity they're experiencing after calls. Basically, in the last 3 years, they were receiving about 26 calls, an average a year, which is about 2 a month. But again, that fluctuates. Sometimes there's months they get no calls. Other times they might get 4 or 5 calls. It just fluctuates. But on average, it's 26 times a year. Nearly half of those calls are unrelated to sewer related. Most of those calls are related to trash. They'll get calls for missed pickups or missed large item collections, or when's, if it's a holiday or is there going to be pickups. So in fact, in the last 3 years, 27% of those calls were related to trash. So they will get some of those calls, but we can make that pretty simple. When residents are calling the after our calls, they will get an automated message, and they can dial it, push a number, and it'll go directly to CNR. Other data that we found from reviewing CNR's invoices, they did respond an average of 8 times a year out in the field to like private SSOs. We also found out that the earliest phone call they received was 3:43 in the morning, and the latest was 11 p.m. And those pretty much majority of the calls they were receiving after hours were between 5 p.m. to 9 p.m. were those calls. So currently we have 5 employees that are assigned to standby duties on a rotational basis. Adding 2 more employees to the rotation will greatly improve morale and help avoid staff burnout for consistently being on standby assignments. Now, the breakdown of the cost to hire 2 new employees and equipment, as well as staffing the after call center, is providing your financial review section. The grand total is $902,000. Funding would be need appropriated in the 22-23 budget. And that concludes my presentation, and happy to answer any questions you may have.
Question, Bob. Why is the drain company terminating the contract? Did they tell you?
No, they didn't give any specific reasons.
Then my next question, if we hire somebody, can we require them to be local? Because a lot of our guys live out of the area, don't they?
We do require them to be, I think, within 1 hour of us, within Costa Mesa. I can't require someone to live in Costa Mesa, but we can put a limitation as far as how far they can live, and usually they have to be within 1 hour.
I mean, say one of the 5's on standby, but where's the farthest one to live at right now?
I think the farthest one is Downey.
Get here. So the farthest
Yes.
one, that's within 1 hour then.
Yes, they can get here. Yeah, so I have one employee that's way out in Paris, and so that person cannot be on stand. It's just too far.
Less it's at 2 in the morning.
Yes, unless it's really. I mean, you might recall when we had the sewer spill, the force main break out in President, which was like an over 24-hour deal. He did come in and help us on that time. So something like that, yes, he could come in and help us.
So I personally like having them live closer.
Yes,
I
agreed.
mean, is that one of the things you consider in hiring them?
Not necessarily. It's just, again, we just strongly encourage in our job description that we require them to be within 1 hour with our. As long as they're within 1 hour, then that's fine.
Then, so how long do you think it'll take us to get the truck? A year to?
At least a year. Yes, at least 12 months.
Or longer?
Could be longer. Yes.
And then did we already budget for that amount of money?
It was approved. We remember the board directed staff to put the 2 new employees in the unit in the rate study. And since there was no protest, majority protest, that will be in the budget for next fiscal year.
Do they come in at level 2?
Yes, the come in at level 2, yes.
Are there people out there that are at level 2 right now that are
Yes,
looking for
yes, there are.
jobs?
That will help us. I mean, we'll still have to do some training, but it's nice that a person at level 2 will already have his or her Class B license, will have hopefully their CWA certifications, also have some skills on cleaning pipeline, right? So we still have to do some training, but it's not full extended when it coming green and coming in. We had to start from scratch.
Those are my questions. Wow.
Yeah. Out of curiosity, have we ever approved David officially in his position?
No, it's a different subject because that's solid waste. So we're talking wastewater here. David's it's a different issue, and I come back on that on a different.
So when are we going to come back? I mean, how long has he been in this
I'll
position?
wait until we wrap up the CRNR negotiations, then I'm going to package everything up for the board for their consideration. So we're looking probably in August.
Yeah, so at the end of the meeting, you can ask for, that is a study session item, although I think Scott's answered your question. It'll be in August before we answer it.
They want to tie it in with the negotiations that are going on, which makes sense, you know.
Well, Scott, I have a couple questions. Right now, we spend a certain amount of money on rental equipment. Sometimes it's hundreds of thousands of dollars a year, depending on how our equipment, how much time our equipment is broken down. So this would probably substantially reduce the amount of hiring contractors to come in, for backups. And that's some information that I'd like to see, because
To read it, it was that one year that we had that anomaly with a lot of sewer spills in 2018. It was because we had one of the cleaning units was malfunctioning in the shop for a long period of times, and we learned from that. And we learned that when we have units that are down for a long period of time, or if we have a staff person that's going to be out for a long period of time, then yes, we would either, one, we could rent the equipment if they're available, or two, we would hire a contractor on a temporary basis to ensure that we don't fall behind in our cleaning.
yeah, well, I mean, historically, that has been a concern or a cost. Do we have to pay up front for the new sewer truck?
No, we don't. We pay it when it's delivered.
And basically, going to a 10-hour day would be a 50% increase in overtime or backup, backup persons needed. What kind of how do we pay those people when they're on backup duty or call out duty?
We budget for that. So they get every employee, they get $50 a day for being on standby, and then they only get paid overtime if they respond to an emergency. So what they'll get paid is they're $50, and then if they get a phone call and they have to deal with that, that's basically on time. So they'll get a minimum 1 hour per phone call.
Yeah, that's what I was asking.
Yeah.
That's standard.
And that's calculated in the total cost of $902,000.
Yeah. Well, I'd like to see a little bit of data on what we paid, even though it was just in 1 year. Every year, I think, though, we have had to hire contractors to come in, or maybe if we see zeros, and one large year, that'll be a non-question for me. Anyway, I think that's most of my questions. Brett?
So just as a follow-up to that, yeah, I would like to see, I mean, I see the 901, but a breakdown of, again, the overtime for one with $50 and all this stuff, because I'm looking here, I mean, you're talking about, call it 26 calls a year. So not a whatever percentage, that not a huge thing. So I would like a little bit more information that President Newton just mentioned, and break that cost down. And then
If I could back up, if you go in the financial section, if you want it further, it is what I estimated for additional annual cost for staffing for after hours center and responding emergency is $23,370. You want that broken down further?
Well, all of that would probably be attributed to the sewer. bill
Yeah.
Or sewer call outs.
That's basically attributing to historically what's CNR Drains has provided to us. Based on the data we received, we estimated that additional cost would be $23,000.
Oh, so, okay, well, then, yeah, that doesn't make sense to me. But you're saying they're charging us 23 grand right now?
It varies. It's,
I mean, on average, basically.
an average, it varies, if it depends how far back. Sometimes it has 20,000, it's been as low as $5,000. Sometimes it's been high as $20,000. It just varies because of the call outs. Now, this past year, we haven't seen a lot of call outs because we're just haven't, there hasn't been a lot of sewer spills, private sewer spills out there. So it just varies.
But if that's our average cost, where's the 5 to 10 grand in savings then? come into play?
That's the savings that we've been, in the last 3 years, we've been paying stay in our drains about $5,000 to $10,000. So that's what I'm saying, that the call outs have been down the last year because it's only been paying $5,000 to $10,000.
Okay. So in essence, we're looking at 2 fully burdened employees at 240 and change. And then in comparison, that saves us maybe 5 to 10 grand a year based. I'm confused by it, so I apologize.
Well, so what do you want me to break down to make it so more clear to you? I don't understand. I guess I
Yeah.
don't understand what you're confused about.
I guess what it costs us, I would like to see something that says, this is what it's going to cost us based on an average annual call volume of 26 calls and X
That's
emergency.
$23,370.
That's what it's going to cost us if we do nothing. If we don't hire these people.
We don't hire CNR drains. Yes, that's what it's going to cost us.
And so and then what's it going to cost us if we don't hire the 2 additional staff? Because it can be done today. But, more people are going to be on call more often is what I think is happening.
The cost was, the on-call cost will still remain the same, but it's just going to have more people doing that on a more continual basis.
Right.
So the cost is still the same. It's just that there's not going to have very many break times, to put it that way, because they're going to be continually on these standby calls.
Right.
And that's where the benefit of hiring the 2 additional employees will be over $140,000, fully burdened, $140,000.
If I may, this is Caitlin. Good morning. The $23,000 $370, that ones include the $50 standby, the cell phones that the district will provide to the standby staff, and also the calculation of potentially every after-hour phone call that they received. So that's the total of the additional cell phone standby. So that's not how much we actually pay to CNR drain, if that
Okay.
helps.
Yep. That's so our cost going forward, again, give or take 23 grand, no matter what we do, that's what we're estimating, correct? To do, perfect. That's okay. That now makes sense. And you'd mentioned 140 though, Scott.
Sorry, it's 240. It's over $244,000.
244,000 plus the 23 grand, give or take. And okay, and currently we're paying about 5 to 10 grand to CR. Now, does it help make any difference whatsoever hiring 1 instead of 2?
Yes, it does. It does, because the plan is right now the SCADA technician, a 2 assigned to him.
Mhm.
Okay. So if we hire just 1 of those employees, let's say if I just hire, okay, let's take it. Let's say we hire the electrical technician. Okay. So that electrical technician works with the SCADA technician. Now that means worker 2 is by himself. Now what is he going to do by himself? I don't have anything for him by himself. Plus we like working in pairs for safety reasons too. another good reason why we want pairs. So the way it was worked out, the 2 additional employees will guarantee we'll have 3 2-person cleaning crews and 1 2-person pump station crews. So they each have a pair for safety reasons. You just hire 1 person, I'm not going to have a pair anymore. So there's that safety concern. And there's also that concern, well, I don't know what that means, what the 2 is going to be doing by himself. I don't want him out in the street inspecting manhole covers by
Right.
himself.
Got it. Okay, so in essence, it's either 0 or 2.
Correct.
That makes sense. Okay, that's all questions I've got right now.
Well, let me ask a question before I forget it. We've historically had difficulty hiring the sewer cleaning crew type of an individual. So do you have any data on top of your head, for how often we don't have, well, right now do we have 1 extra person? We have 4 that are assigned basically to the sewer cleaning crew, which is 2-man crews. And so when one of them are missing, that's when we have to hire. If we want to keep up the cleaning schedule, we have to hire outside contractors.
That's like, or what happens is that we will pull someone off the lift station crews to the cleaning crew, and then we just kind of limit what we can do at the lift stations.
Yeah. Well, I think your goal is admirable to for public protection benefit, both from the pump stations and the sewers by cleaning them more frequently. And when I came on the board in 2006, I knew the county, the kind of guy that inspected ocean closings, the public health people. And so I saw him at a show one night and I said, well, what is the largest need that the sanitary district needs to fill? And he said, basically, you've got to work on your pump stations because your pump stations are overflowing at an abnormal rate. And so, we spent a lot of time technically initially trying to understand that. And then we had a lot of needs, and many of those have been fulfilled. And we've substantially reduced our pump station overflows. There's also a lot of technology that I'm familiar with from Orange County Sand District that I think we need to implement in the electrical and instrumentation arenas in all those 20 pump stations. So basically, I'm in favor of this process. But Mike?
Yeah, Scott, if we don't do anything in terms of hiring, we're going to have to contract out what CR does.
And that's going to be almost impossible because
Well,
every time we've gone out to bid on this, they were the only ones submitted a bid because we require specialized equipment. And that's why we need to go in-house because we're not going to find someone else.
I was thinking that's what you were going to say, even to the point that, say we find that lucky we hit somebody, we have no idea based on inflationary trends. We have no idea what another plumber is going to charge us.
And quite frankly, I think we're the only agency that used a private contractor for after hours. Everyone else has their own staff doing it.
By the way, I think it's easy to figure out why they had 27% solid waste calls, don't you? Our trash hauler is CR&R, our drain guy is CR. I mean, it's a pretty easy. You didn't think that?
No, I was thinking something else.
Come on. Yeah, that's way too easy. Even Bob would have thought of that. The other thing I'd like you to consider is the big truck. There's nothing we can, it's gotta be. But when it comes to the pickup truck, I'd really like to see us look at an EV type truck. Okay, now there are full-size EV trucks out there and we may have to pay a little more, but I'd like you to include that if you can.
Yeah, I think the EV trucks are going to, again, there's such a high demand for them right now, that's going to take might take some time
And-
too.
No question about it. But with the cost of,
For example, I think Ford is coming out with a nice looking EV, but I think they stopped taking orders because there's such demand is so high right now.
I talked to a customer yesterday, actually ran into that. I think a Rivian truck is something you could consider.
Are they American made?
Yeah, in fact, their headquarters is just around the corner, I think. Rivian, Rivian. I would just like to see that option. I don't know if we're gonna be able to do that.
We can definitely explore the availability of EVs, their cost, the delivery time. We'll definitely look into that. If
Okay.
not, I think that the second option is to do what we did with engineering and go with hybrid. We definitely want to do something.
Either whether it's EV or hybrid, I think we need to start thinking about our cost of fuel and availability of fuel in the future. So
Director Schaefer, or Vice President Schaefer, I'm sorry.
Mike's fine too.
Thank you, sir. When I was researching little pickup trucks for the engineering department, I will say that was an option. It was very new at that time. It was mid-70s with just the basics. We've got this for 27,000. So
I get it.
Scott and I were talking, where's the balance
I get
between
totally get
electric
it.
and hybrid? And so based on a 50+ thousand, almost $60,000 difference by the time you get it delivered, we just felt that electric trucks just aren't in the cards quite yet.
The other thing about the electric trucks, and my neighbor owns a auto load capacity and ability to haul things. You may have some issues, but I mean, we could switch trucks around. I just want to do the due diligence and show the public that we're looking at all options. Okay.
Let's have one more question about the pump stations. Do we look at each one of those every day?
Yes. Yes, we do.
Thank you, Mr. President. Just one follow-up question, maybe for Caitlin, or with the sewer rate increase, so this was now budgeted as amended to our budget that we approved, or this is going to be, can you just walk me through where this money's?
Come back with an amended budget with you. It's our plan is to come back with an amended budget to be approved.
So at this point, this is not included in any sort of amended budget. So if we bring this back to the next board meeting, we will have a full new budget to review.
Well, what we're directing, if you give us direction on May and then for adoption, then we'll come back in June for amended budget to be adopted.
So if we pass this in May, but we don't know the budget impact, then couldn't we see that budget impact first?
Sure, we can do that.
Because I wouldn't feel comfortable voting on it until I see the full budget, you know? I mean, I got an idea, but yeah, so if we could get again, I don't need every line item, just a summary, executive summary type thing would be wonderful. All right, thanks.
Back to Brett's question. With our increase next year, is that 17%?
Yes.
Will that cover the cost of what we're including right
Yeah,
now?
because the board directed us to put these items in the rate study to make sure that those
think that's what
revenues
Brett's
will
getting
cover
at.
those expenditures. Yes.
Yeah. So, okay.
Okay. This is, what do you need from us,
I
Scott?
think I've got directions from the board. There's some additional information you want me to bring back for you on May 23rd for adoption approval consideration.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, then we'll go on to receive and file the 2022 Code Enforcement Officers Report. David?
Good morning, President Newton, members of the board. This report summarizes major points for 3 ordinance enforcement topics covering scavenging, graffiti, and trash container enforcement. For the month of April, the interim code enforcement officer focused his efforts on patrols in various parts of the community. The goal is to identify and deter instances of scavenging and residential trash carts left within the public view. In the month of April, the district saw a number of complaints filed with the interim code enforcement officer staff regarding scavenging activity in the city. As with most scavenging complaints, the alleged violations take place in the early morning hours. In order to address resident concerns, the interim code enforcement officer is patrolling the streets by 6:30 a.m. Included below are instances of scavenging that were detected while the officer was investigating specific complaints. The month of April, I caught 8 scavengers throughout the city, listed with maps. Any questions on that?
Oh, just, what was that poor lady on Cornell Drive, 2365 Cornell Drive? What was that poor lady doing in the trash cart? Says, I found a lady in
The
trash.
lady
cart."
in the trash.
Just
Just,
don't even answer that. That was just a smart
I
remark.
apologize. I'll be a little bit
Don't
more.
apologize. I love that. You know,
Trash
David,
can, go ahead.
I'm sorry, one other quick question. And Scott, maybe you need to help with that. When a customer or when a ratepayer has a large item pickup, and back in the day when they were periodic in certain neighborhoods, we had all the scavengers. I mean, if a customer has a large item pickup now, I know darn well that half the stuff they put out is going to be gone before CR&R ever gets there. Is that an incident of scavenging? And that's not legal either, is it? Okay.
It's not inside the trash cart, but I've seen it where.
I'm sure you have. I mean, you know what I'm talking about.
Absolutely.
I know I had a large item 2 weeks ago, and I had a couple of metal items that I put out. Those are gone as soon as they're out. That's still illegal. From a convenience standpoint, it ain't so bad, but okay. Sorry to interrupt, David.
It's in the CR&R contract
That they get it right.
that they get it, yeah.
They used to, I know on the large item pickup, they used to make you put a sign up, CR&R. They don't do that anymore, which is fine. Okay.
They do for the small stuff like paints and things you put CR&R to pick up.
Oh, really?
I mean, that's what I do anyway.
Okay.
Plus, don't you all find that a man goes around in a truck for all the middle stuff and picks it all up?
I
right
wave
away?
at him as he goes by.
I haven't seen them in years, actually.
Our neighborhood, there's a guy, there was
Oh, I
one
see it
guy.
all the time.
He goes to the richer neighborhoods.
That's right.
I'm not sure why he's in mine. He should be in yours and Brett's.
I had a question. So the one on Eldon, and I know who it is. Can we ticket him?
And that was brought to my attention that the board members wanted to, start citing some of these regular, visits. I was directed to contact the city as far as what they do. I think what's going to happen is I'm going to run into a lot of, I don't have an ID or not a valid. And circumstance, when I spoke to the gentleman at the city, we never got to that point. He was having some issues with his phone and never called me back. But I don't have a problem doing what I'm directed to do. It's just, I thought a lot of these people aren't going to be carrying ID or want to, voluntarily give me that ID for the citation process.
May not, but at least give it a go. And then you come back and say, no one's giving me an idea, and at least that. And this guy in particular, he could afford to pay the fine. He drives a very nice car.
Okay.
He's a con artist, and I'm sick and tired of the guy around. So there's other people scavenging because there's a need and they have to. This guy is not. He's a con artist. Yeah, well, yeah, he definitely has an
I
idea.
don't know about that.
Bike, he parks his car. He's smart. He's very smart. He parks his car way on the other. I've followed him before. I mean, we got to start doing something. It's just, and yes, I agree. They may not give you an idea, but at least we've tried something. So at least maybe these folks start to go, you know what, they're starting to get serious. I don't know. That's my opinion, but.
Hey, Bob, I have another question to Scott. In my recollections, didn't we have to have somebody, is David qualified to give citations?
Yes, he's trained.
Okay, that's my question. So you're trained, okay.
And in the last study session, we talked about some informational things to hand out to them. The repeat offenders. Gina did draft something, which we could, give to you guys to look at and give the okay on that. And then we could have it translated into Spanish on the backside as well.
Good idea. Can we get a copy of that? Maybe sent to us just for, we can review it. I think that'd be smart for you to have as a weapon,
Absolutely, I agreed. And, in English and Spanish. Any further questions? Trash container enforcement. In the month of April, there were a few customers reported to district headquarters regarding trash carts in public view. The following a list of locations where trash cart violations were found and addressed by the courtesy notice process. I wrote 115 violation notices throughout the city, listed by streets and the amount of violations on that street. A lot of stuff happening on Orange, Santa Ana, on those main drags. Some instances on those multifamily locations where the serial number wasn't attached to a certain resident. So it's been difficult because they know I don't have any way to find out whose exactly trash cart those are. Other than doing a
Stakeout.
search of the owner. Some of those are difficult because now we have multiple houses on one address. And so it's been difficult with some places. There's a place on Orange that it's 4 apartments on one side and 4 on the other. Habitual offenders.
A lot of those small condo complexes along the east side.
Yeah.
I mean, that must be a hotbed.
Yeah, and I get,
The
the
salt pond,
storage area is, a commodity and hard to find, but a lot of them are just, I think it's not bothering me because my house doesn't face the street.
Right.
I was running into a lot. We're using them as like parking cones. But you can tell when they're obviously, 5 feet apart from each other. Most of those people have complied once I've given them notices for those. But again, I'm just running into this issue with the serial numbers not attached to certain residences. That'll conclude my report unless you have any questions on that.
Thank you, David.
Thanks, David.
Thank you.
Okay, last item is closing items, oral communications and director's comments.
Just a question. I was on the planning commission last night. They're going to be working on Adams. And do we have any lines in there that, because they're going to do the surfacing now, even though the project's not going to be ready to go for like 4 years. And they're going to be putting those electrical lines in the ground on the right side, on the north side. Do we have any thinking there that we have to be concerned about?
Yeah. Yes, thank you. Thank you, Director Perry. I'm sure I'll confirm it with Mark, but hopefully they communicated with us, but we do have lines on Adams. And so we definitely want to make sure their contractors are aware.
The budget is like $28 million for this year for other things for the whole city, but they said they are going to be going underground within, with like 3 years, but the project will be done in 5 years. So I just wanted you to be aware that it's coming up.
Real quick. Could you check with the pump station guys? Those little grease flies. There's been quite a few around they're getting they're getting into our house. And the person I live with has mentioned it to me. And the second thing is,
Why are they coming to your house? I mean, they must smell something that's inviting.
well, between the flies and the skunks that live in our neighborhood, it's scary to sit out in the garage at night and see little things running in front of your garage that are liable to spray you. The other thing is my neighbor across the street had a yellow tag on her trash bin after last. And my wife helps Diane and does some things for her. She looked at the tag, and the tag was for her barrel being too close to a vehicle, which is her son's work vehicle. But so I think the can was emptied, but then they put the tag on it. That CR&R driver could have just left it full, but at least he emptied it for her. She's an elderly lady, and I think he knows it. So he emptied it and then he put the tag on it. And I thought that was a really good way of doing it. I don't know if you guys see that, but people just put the cans out and they could be right next to a car. That driver, most of those CR&R drivers get out and move, and
Yes.
they move them to empty them, then they put them back. So I think that was a good way to handle things. I think that was just something that was really appreciated.
This one. I just want to make a comment. The newsletter, our last newsletter was excellent, the best one yet. I just thought it was really, really good, packed with information. It's good.
And as a follow-up to Vice President Schaefer, it made me recall saying, saw the exact same thing live and in person on my street. And this driver went above and beyond. And when I pulled into my garage and I tried to go get him, he was already gone. But he did the extra step to make it right. So please compliment. I wish I would have been able to talk to him and get his name, but there's two examples of individual drivers doing the right thing and just doing it. So my thanks to them.
You see, I've seen several times, and I've said something to my neighbors, they'll put like black trash bags on top of their cans, or they'll put some box or something and I've seen the drivers get out and throw it away, and it is above and beyond. And I think that's a compliment to CR&R.
I was telling David before at the meeting that in my complex, it's the same thing. Half the driver got out, cleaned up a big mess that was on the ground, put it, and I give him the okay, and he goes,
Now, I've had good comments. I've gotten out, I stand out there and watch them of what they do. And so I go out and talk to them. And in talking with them, they're so happy with their job. They're just, please don't let us not have this job. We want this job. But anyway, I think it's great how they get out of the truck and do this. And I see that too.
And I noticed Mike Carey's on the call with us today. So I hope, Mr. Carey, you're taking good notes about the positive things we're saying about CR&R. Not that you had anything to do with it, but it's all good stuff.
no, we know that's part of your job.
Well, I think Mike has marked an X. I think if you look on your curb, you'll see an X at each of the director's houses.
I don't have a.
Hi, Mike.
Okay, any other comments or communications? If not, we'll adjourn this meeting. Thank you very much for your due diligence.
Fun run.